According to numbers from Facebook in December of 2020, almost a year ago, nearly 1/3, or 31%, of small businesses in the United States are not currently operational. This was in large part due to the restrictions in place that affected many small businesses over the last couple of years. And even if your business stayed in operations, you may have identified places that you need to improve upon. These can be places where you can be better prepared or can improve your positioning and readiness for new and emergent realities, trends, and customer needs. One of the best ways to identify these positions is by doing a SWOT analysis. If you're new to a SWOT analysis or to marketing in general, let me explain how to do it and why it's beneficial for your business. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Morgan with Life Marketing, a digital marketing agency that helps small businesses grow. Today I'll be showing you how to perform a SWOT analysis, why it matters, and what you can do with that information. In order to effectively market your business, improve your products, build better relationships with your customers, and retain top talent, you need to know what works for your business and the people in it, and what doesn't. In this video, I'll discuss what a SWOT analysis is and why we use them, how to perform a SWOT analysis step by step, questions to ask yourself if at any point you get stuck during your analysis, and what to do after you've completed the analysis, including how to create and prioritize your task list. But really quickly, a disclaimer before we get started. A SWOT analysis can feel a little bit like an attack sometimes. You may find yourself taking some of the results personally. Don't do that though. Just don't. Remember that a SWOT analysis isn't intended to be a criticism of your business or of you as a business owner. It's not a moral judgment by any means. It's simply a tool for you to use to take an honest look at your business and figure out what you can do to make it better. Some of it may hit you on a personal level, but that's normal, and it's a feeling that you have to push aside so that you can do what's best for your business. Okay, what is a SWOT analysis? SWOT, S-W-O-T, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it's an assessment tool used to help you identify the areas where your business is excelling and the places where you need to improve. So why do you need to perform a SWOT analysis? As I mentioned before, a SWOT analysis is used to identify where a company is excelling and where they have room for improvement. This is typically used to assess the situation before a new strategy for growth or marketing is created. It's a good idea to perform a SWOT analysis every 6 months to a year, and anytime there's a big change coming, like if suddenly people can't visit your store anymore. How many of you had that problem recently? If you're doing it properly, you'll have new breakdowns every time, and we'll have a new priority list to work on until the next SWOT holiday. But can we make that a thing, a SWOT holiday? Every business gets a day to focus solely on their SWOT analysis? I think it's cool, we should try it. Now, who should be involved in a SWOT analysis? No SWOT, no matter how good it is, will be useful if you don't have leadership on board to make the necessary changes, or to at least make a plan to make the necessary changes. So before you start, you want to get buy-in from the leadership team. However, this shouldn't be a top-down exercise. You want to get input from your customer service team, your marketing department, your product development, your product fulfillment and shipping department, and human resources. Be sure each department is represented, but don't just choose the managers or the department heads. You want to hear from folks who are in the weeds, so to speak, those who are intimately familiar with the day-to-day processes and realities of the business. Before I show you how to perform a SWOT analysis, here is a quick message from Sherman about our new ads course that I think you might be interested in.
Hey, we just helped a small business make over $1.5 million through Facebook advertising. And after managing millions of dollars in ad spend for thousands of different small businesses, we have decided to give away everything we learned to you in a special program. If you want to learn the blueprint to success, the best practices from some of the fastest growing companies in the world, and all of the different tools you will need, then sign up for our social ads training program today.
Let's look at how to perform a SWOT analysis now. I'm going to walk you through what to include in each quadrant and how to format everything. And then I'll walk you through each category and give you some questions to ask yourself and your team to help you if you get stuck. A SWOT analysis can be intimidating and confusing, so I recommend breaking it down into categories and focusing on one at a time. Here's the order in which I typically complete a SWOT analysis. The first step is to establish your question or your objective for your entire analysis. The second is to gather data, research competitors, and ask for employee or industry expert input. The third step is to list your business's strengths and weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, or actually filling out the quadrants. The fourth is to establish priorities for addressing your SWOT findings. The fifth is create a strategy and put your team members or your contractors into motion. And the sixth is to reevaluate and revisit your SWOT regularly. So let's dive into step one. First, you need to establish your SWOT objective. Before you dive headlong into your SWOT analysis, you need to establish an objective or have a question that you're answering. You need to do this to keep your analysis focused. It can be easy to fall down a rabbit hole of every single strength, every single weakness, every single opportunity and threat. You may soon find yourself with dozens of ideas for unrelated things, like marketing marketing or creating new products or expanding your services, etc. I like to phrase my objective as a question, so if I find myself or my team getting sidetracked, one of us can pose this question and get us all back on track. Here are some example questions. Should we expand our services to include, insert new service here? How can we improve our digital marketing efforts? In what ways can we improve our customer retention? I found that starting with the objective or driving question helps to focus efforts and discussions right from the beginning, and it ensures that everyone is working toward the same goal. A SWOT with no objective will get chaotic quickly, so avoid those when possible. After you've established your objective or question, it's time to gather data, research your competitors, and ask for input. So let's move on to step 2. Gathering data, researching those competitors, and asking for that input. You really can't perform a SWOT analysis in a vacuum. You can try, but it probably won't get you very far, because you're only relying on your personal perspectives and your knowledge. Getting input from others is crucial, and so is gathering hard data so your analysis is based on fact and measurables, and not in hopes and dreams. As the title suggests, step 2 actually has 3 steps within it. The first is gathering data, the second is researching competitors, and the third is asking for input. You'll probably have that memorized after you're done watching this video. Let's look at each of these points in turn. Gathering data is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to gather hard numbers, or get as close as you can, for the objective or question. If you're dealing with getting more sales, for example, start by collecting data for how many sales you have now, how much those cost you, what the average order value for those sales is, how you get those sales, i.e. the marketing channels or the sales team, and any other pertinent data. This information will be important for you to set goals and benchmarks and to be able to see if your efforts have actually paid off. If your sales don't increase, for example, after you've done all of this work, then you know that your SWOT analysis and the result that you came to wasn't successful. Next, you'll want to research your competitors. What are your competitors really good at? What do customers love about them? What does their internet presence look like? What is their ordering and shipping experience like? You'll need this information so that you can identify things you do better than your competitors and the things that you do worse than them. This is really important information for your positioning. And you'll need to ask for input, of course. Even if you're the owner or you've worked in the industry for a long while, you don't know everything that there is to know about your business or the customer journey. That's just a fact. That's why I like to seek out the opinions and experiences of others in and outside of the company so that I can get a fresh perspective and get an idea of things that I don't know are happening, and I can make my employees and managers feel seen and heard. When I ask for input, I like to do a few things. I send my questions before I meet with team members. I found that tailoring questions to the individual for their department or their position works best. I also like to ask team members to summarize their answers as 1-sentence bullet points. I like to limit them to 2 or 3 bullet points per question. Some folks will work better when they have some extra time to think about the question and mull over their answers. I have found I get better, more fully formed answers and ideas if I give folks time, rather than if I put them on the spot in a meeting. I also meet with team members individually instead of in a big group. Some people will gather everyone together and do a 1 to 2 hour brainstorming session to get ideas out there and prioritize them at the same time. I've sat in on a few of these in-person group sessions, and I don't think they work well personally. First of all, some employees may be unwilling to speak up if they think their comment will be perceived negatively by leadership. It's also easy for louder employees to dominate the conversation, meaning that not all ideas will be heard. And the loudest idea is not always the best idea. In fact, it often isn't. Second, I've seen so many of these meetings devolve into operations or marketing campaign discussions or even simple check-ins. When that happens, these conversations aren't productive or a good use of company resources. To alleviate some of that, I recommend you assign one person with the task of completing the SWOT analysis. This person can schedule one-on-one discussions with the team members you want involved in the process so that they can speak candidly, not negatively, just candidly. Okay. Let's move on to the actual SWOT analysis part. Now you need to list your business's strengths and weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now we're getting to the bits that you think of when you do a SWOT analysis. This is where we'll do the majority of the work brainstorming ideas and identifying issues and potential solutions. Let's go over what you'll include in each section and some questions that you can ask yourself or your team if you're feeling stuck at any point. We'll start with strengths. Focus on those things that you do exceptionally well in this quadrant. This can be anything from culture to shipping times to product design. Maybe your Instagram is growing like crazy. Try to include a mix of tangibles and intangibles here. Having good ideas is definitely a strength, but that's an intangible. Having a lot of engagement on social is definitely a strength, and that's a tangible thing that you can measure. Use hard data here when you can. Like if your new sales team has improved sales a lot, look at how much. What are those numbers? Since this will help you later on when you're judging how successful you were with your execution, it's a really important step that you don't want to skip. Here are some questions to ask yourself if you're struggling to come up with your strengths. What's something our current customers compliment us on? What's something we've been officially recognized for? Have you won awards for anything? What does our team do really well? What are we experts in? And what makes us experts? When customers come to us from a competitor, what do they say is the reason? Let's move on to weaknesses now. This quadrant is for things that you don't do well. Look at this honestly and really listen to your employees and your customer feedback without taking it personally. Here are some questions to ask yourself if you're struggling to come up with weaknesses. What negative feedback do we receive from customers most often? What stops prospects from becoming customers? What is delaying our processes internally? What are we doing inefficiently? Is there a better way to do it? What resources, knowledge, or skills do we lack? Now it's time to go for opportunities. This quadrant houses your opportunities for growth. You should focus on things you'd be able to do if you just had one or two different circumstances. So don't get too head in the clouds here. That's not to say that you shouldn't throw those ideas out there, but it means you should focus on developing the ones that you can accomplish in a 6-month to 1-year time frame. Those big lofty goals can be added to your long-term development plan. Work on this separately from your SWOT tasks. This also helps to keep things focused, like I was talking about earlier. Here are some questions to ask yourself if you're struggling to come up with those opportunities. Are there any current or projected trends that we can connect to our business or product? Is there a skill set or person that we're lacking? Could we create a role and hire someone to fill that and join the team? Or can we promote from within? Who can we support? What can we do to support them? Let's move on to threats. The final quadrant is for threats that could take business from you. These threats can be from competitors or industry changes, market shortages, or big extenuating circumstances like the last 2 years. You should list internal and external threats here because both play a large role in the health and the success of your business. Let's look at some questions to ask yourself if you're struggling to come up with those threats. Are there any big changes coming to the industry? For example, privacy changes affecting digital advertising globally. Are there new competitors or products that could replace our business or our product? What supply chain issues have we had this year? Are they expected to continue? Have we seen a decline in sales? How much? Your hard data is essential here. Could any of our weaknesses prevent us from meeting our goals? After you've filled out your quadrants and answered your questions, it's time to establish priorities for addressing your SWOT findings. Now that your SWOT analysis is complete, what's next? You've got this list of areas that you're killing it at and know what you need to do to improve upon, but how do you actually get started? You're going to need to create an action list and prioritize the items on that list. Then you delegate to employees or contractors, outsource, or complete the task on the list. Let's quickly review how to do that. Your completed SWOT is essentially a quartered off to-do list, but it will require some polishing and restructuring before you can just go. Look at each bullet point and rephrase it as a task. Then list any subtasks that need to be completed within that task. Don't worry if you can't think of every task or if you can't phrase your task well. It doesn't really matter at this point as long as you have a good idea of what you need to do. Now you need to prioritize. You can't do everything all at once, and you shouldn't put that pressure on yourself or your team. So you need to prioritize each of the actions on your list. Sort tasks by tasks that you already have resources for. Those should be your first priority. Tasks that you can quickly or affordably get resources for. Those should be your second priority. Tasks that you can't get resources for, but there's a workaround. Those should be your third priority. And tasks that you can't get resources for, there's no workaround. You guessed it, that's your fourth priority. As I mentioned, you'll start with the tasks that you have resources for now. If you have more than one task on this list, do the one that your team is most interested in to get the ball rolling. Next, you'll need to create a strategy and put team members or contractors into motion. Now that you've identified the best ideas and you've prioritized them, it's time to put everything into motion. Hopefully you've got a team or contractors that you can rely on to delegate some of this work. Use the resources that are available to you. Don't feel like you have to take it all on by yourself. You can organize this however you'd like by using your priority list from the last step to guide you. As I mentioned, you should reevaluate and revisit your SWOT regularly. How often should you perform a SWOT analysis, I hear you asking? What does regularly even mean? Well, it can mean whatever you want it to, honestly. However, I recommend performing a SWOT analysis at least once a year. You should also perform a SWOT before you introduce any new products or services, especially if they're quite a bit different from what you already provide. If there are changes to your internal teams, like you add a new department or you hire a marketing director, then it's a really good time to do another SWOT. Or when big changes are coming to the industry or the world, like all of the things that happened in 2020, or these new privacy changes for iOS and Facebook. If you want to add another SWOT analysis to your calendar and just have it be recurring for every 6 months to a year, then do that. Thanks for watching this video and sticking with me to the end. I hope this helped answer your questions about what a SWOT analysis is, why you need one, and how to perform one. You'll get better at these as you go, so don't stress out about this too much. Use as much data as you can, and if you find that you don't have any hard data, start collecting that now so that you have it ready for the next time. As always, let us know if you have any questions in the comments, and we'll be happy to help you. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future videos on digital marketing. I'll see you next time.